Hello, good people of the internet. Today we're playing episode 7 of Suzerain. And if you've missed the previous episodes and want to catch up, then I will link to episode 1 via a card. And if you don't know what this is, then maybe episode 1 will give you the best overview anyway. In short, it is a political simulation game. I'm going to do a lot of reading. I'm going to make lots of decisions. And I'm going to probably ruin the country. This fake country. Last time we were talking to the media mogul and we made a deal that they would protect us in some way, but we owe them a favor. We also decided on the infrastructure company. We went with the newer, I don't know how to describe them now. Not the corrupt company for the country, not the poor workers' rights company. We went with the risky, newfangled technology company. And we also decided that we would visit the funeral of the member of parliament who died, just because we will pay our respects, but I'm worried this is going to go badly. The news, I think we did actually read last time, but because I quit the game after a save, yeah, I think I've read that. So these are all the policies as well. We did check out the previous episode if you want to see that in more depth. But we are now going to attend the funeral of Bernard Circus. Dark clouds were looming over Dea. They looked daunting as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. It looked like it was going to rain, certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Circus's passing maintained its media attraction, and all of Swordland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today. Why am I making a speech? I didn't say I'd make a speech, did I? I just said I would attend. Anyway, we have arrived. There's actually raindrop noises this time. Raindrops were running down the car window when Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. It's okay, Serge, I'll hold my own umbrella. Yes, let's hold our own umbrella. As long as it doesn't fly away. Handed me the umbrella and started waiting next to the car with his own. Okay, good. He isn't left in the rain. Petter and Carl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over to me. Anton, Mr. President, just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There's no one getting in or out without our knowledge. We don't want something similar happening again, do we? Better be right for your sake. Good work. Thank you, Carl. We'll just say good work. He knows what he has to do. And even if I said we don't want something to happen again, that's just reminding him and put him in, bad mood or something. If anything happens to Anton, you have to answer to the First Lady. Well, there you go. He's backing me up. Or, doing the opposite. Trust me, Carl, you don't want that. Petter laugh while they cease joking, which drew some attention from bereaved attendees. Petter, you're being inconsiderate. I don't think any of us want that. Yes, it's a funeral. So we should probably reaffirm. I mean, he is our friend, but let's just say this. So he apologizes. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. We have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said they wish to pay their respects to their fallen comrade. Should we let them in? Do you think they pose a security threat to let them in, but a few guards on them? We'll ask them if they pose a threat. No, they were thoroughly searched. Looks like they're really here to attend the funeral. Mm-hmm. I don't want to take guards away from somewhere more important. I mean, just because they're here to attend the funeral. I mean, was he a member of the Red Youth? Bernard Circus? He was definitely in favour of those ideas. He joined the Red Youth. I mean, I kind of want to say yes, but also I don't want to be photographed or anything with them and for them to do something. But if they stay outside, then let's just go with no. Too risky. Walked towards the crowd circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance was wearing black in mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Diana. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took to the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today we are mourning Bernard Circus, the father, husband, and loyal servant of this country. There was complete silence except for the sound of raindrops. This is a great loss for us all. Confess that I disagree with Bernard Circus almost entirely, but it doesn't mean that he deserved this. Our country can be a better place. Regardless of his ideology, this was a heinous act made towards a good man. We must end the cycle of violence. Or he was a true comrade and he fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of Swordland in every step of his life. I think that we have to go, we're trying to diffuse things, so we say we want to end the violence. This is to agreeing with, well, this is disagreeing with him, this is agreeing with him, and this is potentially agreeing with him, but we want to end violence. And our next choice then, we will make sure that unfortunate events such as this never happen again. Circus had a dream about a unified Swordland, and these next months we will need to fulfill his dream and band together. I interpret this attack as an attack against Swordland and by extension against me personally. I promise you this, the blood of Bernard will not remain on the sacred ground of Swordland. What does that mean? The blood will not remain? Like, they're going to move him to a different burial place? Or, you know, whatever. We're not going with that option then. Make sure that unfortunate events such as this will never happen again. That's too much of a promise, really. A unified Swordland, and in the next months we need to fulfill his dream. I don't think we want to fulfill his dream. Let's just say, even though it sounds like a promise, like, I don't want it to, it's not about me. So say this, this will never happen again. We will make sure. Let us all mourn the passing of Bernard Circus and remember him well. But hatred begets hatred. There is only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. The tears of the family he left behind have a price that needs to be paid. I will not stop until it is paid in full. So we don't want to go for revenge. So this is like the neutral thing, right? If we just say we mourn the passing, we must unite against the evil of this world. Hatred begets hatred. I mean, I like the beginning. But people may interpret this as the evil being the other people in the same country. I don't know, I prefer this one, but I feel like I need to do something which isn't so neutral. Or maybe it's not neutral because it says remember him well. Anyway, let's unite against the evil of this world. And we could recite one of his poems. I think we will not, because it's probably... Some attendees started clapping, some crying. Crying because it was so bad. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers, and after a couple of minutes, Bernard Circus was with the soil no more. But surely he's with the soil much more. Anyway, as we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close with the words every sword lives by. Amorgna West Core. Oh, I can't, because it was a while since I recorded that. I can't remember what Amorgna West Core means. If I search for it, Morgna. No, that's just the Oh, this is searching characters. Can I just search everything? Morgna. Maybe it's searching everything. I just don't want to say something which is offensive. I can't remember. Fine. Maybe it went well. Everyone replied, Vector and Sister. With applause as I stepped down from the podium, it was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Deanna, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Probably. Peter put his hand on my shoulder. That was good speech. I sensed only respect from his voice. So I can nod. And say thank you, Amina. I need to come. It's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right. We had work to do. So much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped. I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end. And the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Okay. And looks like we are straight into another decision. This looks like where we're doing our highway construction. A briefing on the current diplomatic situation at Blue Mansion. The Blue Mansion in Lochhaven hosted us for the important diplomacy gathering. Diplomacy. Apparently I decided to say diplomacy. Anyway, the door opened and David Vichy, once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way toward my desk. May I sit down, Mr. President? Leave the formalities aside, David, please take a seat. Or, of course, pleasure to see Mr. Vichy. So, this was our teacher at uni or something. They did economics, though. Maybe. Anyway. Sure, we're friends with him, right? All right, Anton. I'm used to titles. Diplomacy jobs train oneself. He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He'd always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age had served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, the fourth president of Swordland. What a privilege for me. I still remember the first day you took my class at the Lochhaven School of Economics. Somehow the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here to positions where we can change the course of history. Everything happens for a reason, David. It was meant to be. We got a little lucky, that's all. This is our opportunity to shape the future, and we will do precisely that. Let's go with that. I'm looking forward to our new foreign policy. I'm looking forward to present you the latest bill I'm working on. TCPA has turned out to be an initiative that can significantly boost our tourism and culture industry. This untapped value would help us internationally to promote our position. I'm convinced it can also help improve our economic condition after discussions with Minister Hull and Munja. The GNA and USP factions are supportive too. I really shouldn't have done overtime hours to get it done, but I really care for position and value of our coal. Started coughing again, this time for longer. So he's not very well then, is he? I mean, I would like to ask you if he would like tea or water, and then ask how his health is. Yes, please. Tea and water sounds nice, thank you. He smiled. Olivia brought 2 cups of tea along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. Seems you still remember how much I like tea. Nowadays it really does wonders for my throat. So we can ask how his wife is doing. Has your niece started going to kindergarten? Let's talk about his health, because maybe we're worried about that. Oh, I haven't had any big complications except the usual after that heart attack earlier this year. You know, no big health issues, just a heart attack. The health complications aren't a hindrance to my work, of course, but thanks for asking. How's the Rain family? Slowly getting used to the routine. Wife was really taken to the First Lady role. Frank never liked the spotlight, so that hasn't changed. Let's say slowly getting used to it. As time passes, I realise it more. Family is the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. The door opened. Joseph and Lucien joined us for the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Petter, however, was missing. I wondered if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party in Lockhaven. What party? Weren't we just at a funeral? We'll talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. I could ask how the travel to Lockhaven was, but sure, maybe that gives me an extra bit of information about how the trains and stuff are working. A little bumpy due to some turbulence. Well, I guess I'm not going to find out if they're arriving by plane. Yeah, military cargo plane that landed in Lockhaven International. Took the train, it was a little slow, but I can still recommend it for the beautiful landscape. I also had the possibility to work on a couple of things during the ride. Well then, since Mr. Vecton doesn't seem to be coming today, I think we're ready to start. Does that mean that... Anyway. I will start by providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbours. What would you like to start with? Agnolia. Go on, let's hear about Agnolia. Mostly because it's first on the list. Our brotherly, in stars, I don't know in what emphasis that is, nation to our northeast, Agnolia. They are still diplomatically non-aligned and probably has one of the most democratic systems between our neighbours. Has one of the most democratic. Okay. So this is our country, Swordland, over here, this purpley, maroony colour. Economic stagnation is a worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbour. We have been allies for the longest time after Rumburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister Martin van Houten is expecting better cooperation through a new, fairer trade deal with us. It's one of his election mandates. Well, think about his request. The matter is still on the table. A more comprehensive trade deal sounds beneficial to all sides. We should maintain the existing agreement. We can't lose our advantage. I mean, we will think about it. I haven't heard enough about it to do anything different. We could secure them as allies if we make concessions in a new agreement. Rumburg is our common threat. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Agno-Swordist citizens live in the Agenland region of Swordland, which creates a link between foreign policy and our internal affairs. These people have suffered socio-economically, which led them to crime and other problems. In addition, a relaxed immigration policy was one of Agnonia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't even assimilated into Swordist culture. Adding more won't help. I'm skeptical about relaxed immigration. I'm supportive of relaxed immigration. Well, it seems like we already have 1 million Agno-Swordist citizens living in the Agenland region. So, you know, what's a few more? Let's say that we're supportive of it, because there wasn't a middle option. Rethink the matter seriously because it has a great influence on our society and values. We should remember that we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed in the election campaign. Should we remember that? Probably. So then we can say, let's learn more about Valgsland. Our cousins of old across the Marchian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Valgsland is a socialist republic aligned with United Contano. They are an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in almost all of Macopa. It is the only country that can rival the superpowers with their navy. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hegel. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future. It's not easy to forget about the Great Fire of Comriat. Thousands of lives were lost that day. Breaking the ice with Valgsland could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. We shouldn't take any sides between the regional powers. What do we want to say? Not easy to forget the Great Fire. I mean, I kind of already had. Could be good if we get to rise diplomatically. Yes, that one's true. But also they're aligned with Quintana. I think we're aligning the other way. The regional superpowers, like Valgsland and Rimberg. I mean, we want to be friends, but not like super friendly, don't we? I agree they could be potential allies in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. They haven't been in good standing with us for the past 200 years. Recently, they have also joined the Communist Contanan Security Pact, subjugating themselves to United Contana. Yes. On top of that, territorial issues have been flaring up between Agnolia and Valgland because of the Helgeland Island. Looks like this thing. Yeah, they've even striped it on the map. The Swordist Navy is very concerned with this volatile situation. Lucian looks slightly worried. Unfortunately, billions of Swordist Ren worth of cargo is transported close to Valgslandian maritime borders on the Marchian Sea in the Grey Strait. Is that this or this? This causes significant risk to our imports and exports in the case of deterioration. Fine. The strait is of high strategic value to us, so we can't expect the worst. Well, Yusuf, the Navy, is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right? We are actively monitoring the sea routes and cargo ships. For now, there is no immediate threat, but we don't know what can happen in the future. They also have a massive navy, so... What's the latest situation in Valen? It is tumultuous in the south, as always. Victor Smolak is expanding his powers among protests from Vezek people. However, he is quite positive about a normalization of relationship between our countries. So this is the country. Oh, and this is where the Bloodish people are coming in from. Despite purging the Vezek communists, reports indicate that as they have been warming up to Kantanan international aid, indicate they haven't. Okay, as you know, Valen stability was a concern for the region. But if we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. I still can't stomach the inhumanity those people suffered. A trade agreement with them would improve stability and increase mutual trade. Why help such a disorganized state? Not sure about what we can do to help them. Swordman paid enough by housing millions of refugees in the Valen Civil War, no more. Trade agreement could help. I mean, there would be many bargaining chips discussed, but Valen could be a new partner in the region. We would also invest in stability, though. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis like the late 1920s. That civil war had major security and economic repercussions on Swordish soil. One of the demands of the President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws so that political refugees don't escape to Swordland. There has been a recent purge that pushed many Bloodish to flee to Bergia. It's definitely troubling. Gumran Outpost has regained its importance due to this. I'm sure you would remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President. I mean, that was in the prologue, wasn't it? He was right. I did remember that winter. I remembered how cold it was when I let the refugees slip through. I was discharged of my duties as a result, but Major Joseph Lancia, no less, spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in a cell. In fact, there had been similar refugee situation in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to disobey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. I mean, why? You already kind of half mentioned it. Why would you fully mention it? So I can say, I was young and made a mistake. Past is past. Let's move on. Made me sleep in a prison cell. Never forget that. I did what was right. Let's just say the past is the past. He opened his mouth to say something, but dived kind of in. Our focus should be on the current matters. The Bloodish minority is very large inside Valen too, which is a factor to consider. It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state in our western border. On our western border. Valen has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist Alliance. Another point to analyse. Two important neighbouring countries remain, Lesbia and Rimburg. Which would you like to hear about first? Yeah, let's hear about Lesbia first. Our southern neighbour is aligning itself more and more with Arcadia. Lesbia is currently led by Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in Mecopa. Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality. Our past relations have been great, but during the last decade, their investments to Swordland dwindled due to our instability. Allying with the richest regional neighbour could be beneficial. Lesbia is a sleeping giant. We should not wake them. They keep turning a blind eye towards the region, thinking that Lesbia is above it all. Let's just say the top one. It could be, but it would also mean that we would draw closer to the Arcadia bloc and near the Arcadian Treaty Organization. I'm certain that the recession has a lot to do with their retraction of investments. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because they are capitalists. But we're trying to grow our economy anyway. They have shown a selfish attitude during the Valen Civil War by closing their borders and funneling refugees to cross into Swordland. Lucian cleared his throat. Our values are too different with Lesbia. It'll be hard to see eye to eye. Capitalism of Lesbia is inspirational to me. Look at their economic power. I mean, it's both, right? Both things are true. The values are very different. But let's... Everything comes at a cost. In Lesbia, the cost is wealth inequality, but business people are getting richer and richer. There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Benfi and Vaughan in the south. Situation with Rumburg, well, they hate us. Most troublesome nation, Rumburg, constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. Highly advised caution and calculated action against Rumburg. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real. They are strong and have the motivation as well as the means to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reasons to pursue aggression. I will take your advice into consideration. Rumburg is and always will be a rogue-like state. Nothing can be done about them. We must prevent them from interfering in our affairs. Shouldn't give them any reason. Well, let's just say I'll take it into consideration, because I think we already are taking it into consideration, aren't we? These types of nations will always try to make up casus belli, a reason to declare war, while Thornborough only openly denies such claims. Is that the... Yeah, it's the capital. You can see it on the map. Thornburg. Their past and current actions make it clear they want to destabilize us. The weapons caches found by intelligence agency clearly shows that what their goals are. Our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant. Yosef looked stern and full of resolve. Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities. You can be assured of that. I think the threat is far too overblown. Top one. We are always in dialogue with our Rumburg ambassador to make sure a channel is open to solve disputes. We could use their aggressive attitude against them by convincing the international community. Grab the Lockhaven Times newspaper and put a finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident. Their abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumburg consulate in Lockhaven is yet another step in their escalation. This covers the overview of the current situation. We will move on to our trade choice and the response to Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. Sun began to set over the hills surrounding Lockhaven. The team was ready to give advice on the new trade initiative and the response to the latest diplomatic incident with Rumburg. Petro arrived late. He looked a little rougher than usual. He must have been, yeah, drinking, maybe. Excuse my delay. I'm sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know. You were still supposed to be part of this meeting an hour ago. Yeah. Punctuality is important. We are talking about serious subjects here. I could lie and say he was assigned a task from me, but he wasn't. Discipline in the cabinet. Excuse me, it won't happen again. Lucy and Yosef looked at Petter before David moved away from the subject. The Vice President will be part of the trade delegation, so it will be great to have his input on that subject as well as the Rumburg incident. Rumburg Consul Sir Brian Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now the diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Swordsland due to the assassination and subsequent protests, but it's obvious that they are making excuses. First they closed the consulate and then they blame our security. The security situation is under control. They're playing with us. Their concerns could be genuine, but this reaction is unnecessary. So let's say they're playing with us. Isn't that telling that other countries are working with us while Rumburg is just cutting more ties with us? The neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now there are only 2 Rumburg diplomatic missions left in Swordsland. One is the consulate in Dea, and the other is in the embassy in Holzord. We are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. I must display strength to my people. We can't be pushed around. They're bluffing. We're used to by now. let's say it's serious. They're playing with fire. Look at that Valen destabilization. Look at what the Valen destabilization has done to the region. Saw them breaking apart would tear Makopa apart. In my entire career, I've never seen our Rumbug relations suffer this much. The previous low point was the annexation of Dome. Yusuf was furious. He barely kept himself from slamming the desk. There are worrying developments like the smuggled arms and the build-up near the border. Our military must be buffed up to stand against a great power like Rumbug. We either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic condemnation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome. I want to say that an escalation would be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumbug in the international scene. Yeah, I think I agree with that. The people of Swordsland must be protected no matter the cost. I say we respond equally. So we can retaliate by closing the consulate in Dome. They think they can bully us. They were never so wrong. Or we can write an official diplomatic response condemning the unreasonable act, declare that Rumbug aims to destabilize Swordsland and the region. Let's go with that. I think that's a much better option. This isn't tit for tat. This is get other people. Get bigger people on your side. As you wish, Mr. President, I shall begin work by immediately informing the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. What is your job? Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. All right, he's talking about the ministry, not the minister. Anyway, swaying the international stage is the key in long-term strategy. I wish we had reacted more strongly. If we don't confront them, they will keep escalating the situation. Pata is glad we're taking the more cautious road. There are 3 trade-related topics to address today. Which topic should we tackle first? It says 3 and then there's only 2. Or Valen and Agnolia and then Rizia. But not Lesbia or the other one. Let's do the trade negotiations. Primary goal will be to successfully sign at least one trade agreement with one of our smaller neighbors. We have 2 options with our trade initiative, starting new negotiations with our old partner Agnolia to the northeast and forming a new cooperation with Valen to the west. Tell me about the trade deal with Agnolia. First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic than economic, although of course we can't forgo the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. The point we are at with the earlier negotiations is around their steel trade. They are demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. That is because they think that the deal is far too unbalanced as it is. Their second main demand is a privileged access to our agricultural market. If we are to fulfill their demands in return, they are offering a full alliance with Swordsland against Rumbug. Looking at the current advances of Rumbug near our borders, having a coalition against Rumbug would prove extremely useful. Obviously, there will be consequences for entering a full alliance. Mainly the issue is around Helgeland. Valgsland has clear intentions on taking over the island one way or another, and entering a military alliance with Agnolia will make them furious. I want to state my support for the decision to stick to our old ally, Agnolia, even though I disagree with their demand to relax immigration. We have cooperated with them on many issues in the past. Obviously, subjects that we would still need to tackle, like our economies, the trade of goods, and what's to do with immigration. My opinion is that this is a good deal and we should go for it. The new Agnolian Prime Minister is trying to improve the existing relationship. The downside is we would need to make concessions a reality of any trade deal. So I can say that we're open to creating a new agreement that would satisfy all sides. I don't want to give any concessions to them. We can't position ourselves against Valsland. I mean, again, all 3 are true. I'm happy to give concessions if that's what the deal would bring. However, if Valkslan happens, then... Well, I won't say I'm open to it, but also we shouldn't do this. That would be the best outcome. If you decide that Agnolia is a good option, another point is that they have a very democratic system. After recent elections, the PM has a mandate to arrange a fairer deal with us. Martin van Houten, also an avid supporter of relaxed immigration. Since we said we'll keep immigration relaxed, it will help us. Starting the highway construction at Agland plays a part too. Regardless, if we're going to increase our regional's influence to previous levels, we might need to make amends with our neighbours. Ultimately, the decision will be up to you as always. So let's talk about Valen. Fractured country like Valen has its positives and negatives. Although it will be lucrative in the short term, there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. They're proposing co-investment projects and no tariff agreement. They are also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital interests from Swordsland. However, it's possible that there will be international ramifications of getting closer to a country like Valen. All in all, this is a very lucrative deal. However, we need to think about the consequences. Certainly don't support the decision to become friendlier with Valen. We carried their burdens for decades. Their migrants flooded our country and now they're expecting a deal from us. Maintaining influence with Valen could prove useful, risky, but think about our influence on an underdeveloped region like that. Could also sell more products and enter their market easily. Of the opinion that it's simply too risky, yes, we would gain resources and immediate capital, but I'm afraid of the consequences. Return is too lucrative to pass on regardless of the risk. Can we do both, or is this a one or the other? Did Lucian say anything? I mean, there seems like there's more risks than this. And he tends to agree that it's risky, or does he just tend to agree with whatever I say? If we wish to go forward with the deal, when the time comes, there is the topic of immigration to consider. Smolak is known isolationist. Our promise to keep our immigration policy relaxed will not help at all. He blames us for bringing Western interests to the region. He also doesn't want his political opponents to flee here. I personally don't like the idea of getting too close to Valen. Me too. I still think we should give it a try. I mean, there was mention of a spy earlier, a long time earlier. When 3 people agree and one person's saying not to. And also he was late. But then that would be a spy for Valen. Not for Rimberg. Or maybe both. Anyway. Our campaign promise to steer Swordland towards the west and Arcadia will have an effect on the negotiations. Especially with Valen, as you know, the current affairs with Valen are partly a result of United Quintana's support of Victor Smolak, though this will be a problem, but definitely worth trying. As for Agnolia, the promise has made them cautious, which might make it harder to get a good deal. Right, because we promised to steer us towards the western Arcadia. We also need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine plan. The fact that we're headed towards market economy, it will have an influence. Good negotiators optimize the interests which make the differences become trivial, allowing both sides to reach a deal. We have a lot of time to prepare before the scheduled visits to Valen and Agnolia. I believe this gives a brief overview of our current options, does it? Our trade delegation will begin work towards the end of the year. We expect final negotiations and the signings of the trade agreements to happen next year. Very much looking forward to visiting Starport and Vraklovitz. with party animals like David and Simon. Petal after use of narrative eyes and stared at him. And then we want to know more about Rizia. The nation south of Lesbia is a centralized constitutional monarchy led by King Romus Toras, grandson of Queen Lizia Toras the Great, and son of King Valerio Toras the Frail. The kingdom is the developed nation that wielded considerable influence in southern Mokopa before the reign of Valerio. The country has lost some territory due to internal strife. There's something here, some duchy, maybe. The Alfonso government signed vital trade agreements with King Romus Toras, benefiting both nations at a time of need. Attempts at further cooperation stalled out due to the king's blood ties to Rumburg. What exactly are these ties? I'm curious about how our neighbours Lesbian and Valen get along. Let's ask this one first, assuming there is a first and a second. Some tension with both. It appears that since Lesbia's acceptance into ATO in 1950, most of South Mokopa has been heading towards a boiling point. Not to mention Valen struggles with the BFF, an organisation that we've long suspected to be armed by King Romus in-laws in Rumburg. BFF being the Bloodish Front. Yeah, Freedom Front. The relationship between Rizia and Valen is more complex than that. They were closely aligned under Valerio's rule until Rumburg entered the play. We have enough issues to figure out. We can't worry about the problems of others. Mokopan geopolitics are a complexity of another caliber. Anytime Rumburg enters the play, crap hits the fan. Yeah, let's just say everything's complex. My job is to make sense of it. It's a privilege I enjoy regardless of my age. Smolak also makes sense of things with certain substances. Unbefitting a national leader if true. Lucy not on table, we should be more concerned with. Actually, a friend of Gus called Rusty gifted me this beautiful piece of full Rizian gold coin. They say it helps you find love. What is he going on about? Petter pulled out the ornamental coin and put it on the table. It was so polished that it caught reflections of light in the room. Lucian was clearly frustrated. You don't need help finding love, you got Evelyn, right? I'm really confused why this whole thing has started. Let's move on. What are you all going on about? As you wish, and thank you. Let's discuss the deal potential and what's on the table. From what we have gathered, there is no clear offer yet. The interest clearly seems to be more control over the gas produced and sold in Swordland. I suspect this must be related to the recent tensions on the coast of Pales. Mr. Manja is working out the details to get more concrete headline terms soon. Of particular interest are the gas fields in Narble area and the largest region. That must be related to Gassam operations, Gus's ties with the people around that corporation. Even though there is another CEO, Advald Alfonso, is still the chairman. Gassam is a private corporation, a fact that limits our control over any foreign investment. Tarquin Sol's Energy Protection Act of 1933 specifically limits the purchases of Swedish energy company shares by foreign nations to 10%. Edwald adjusted this law in 1948 and increased it to 20%. Anything above that requires us to change the Energy Protection Act. Evald holds most of the Gassam cards in his hand still. Remember campaigning for him back in the day? He wouldn't have gotten the USP leadership without us. Good thing we handled the transfer of power within the party diplomatically. I'm sure he'll be more open to talk. I see a strong case for Tarquin Sol's regulation. Energy security is important for our nation. Gassam is private, but it still sells most of the gas it produces to Swordland, right? So if we were, so we're talking about changing the percentage up from 20% to something else, because they would want, the deal that we're talking about with Rizia, they would want to buy some of that company. So it's private, but the law states that they can't own more than 20%. So if we want to change it, we can say that we can change it this way. That he would go with us, or we can say that there's a case because energy security is important. It's private, but it still sells most of the gas to Switzerland. I think so, yes. Lucy knows more than me. Up to 70% goes to Switzerland. This used to be higher, but international demand has seen gas and diversify its deliveries outwards. Rumberg and Lesbia are increasing their demand each year. They have hungry industries waiting to be fulfilled. Fueling the Rumberg war machine is indisputably wrong. Pulled out a pen and took a few notes. David coughed a bit and then continued talking. From our diplomatic channels, we can tell that Lesbia is still very interested in Swedish petrol, whereas Rumberg wants more gas resources. As a sovereign nation, we must protect our resources. Our energy independence is part of our national security concern here. Gasum handles more of our gas production. Allowing more market economics to determine the value and output of our energy is aligned with our economic plan. I mean, it is. We should protect our energy independence, but we don't know the offer's specifics yet. As long as we can improve our economy and resource extraction, we shouldn't care much. I mean, again, all three. I want to say all three. Allowing more market economics to determine the value and output of our energy. Let's go with the economic plan. Potential mistake when our traders use our dependence on them against us. It's true. Like I said, all three of the statements were correct. But we want energy independence and security, but we also want to be able to improve the economy. If Rizia wants to buy more than 20% of shares allowed by the protectionism laws, then the government can step in to make changes to the EPA. Precisely, but we don't know if this will be the case. There is a scenario in which they might invest within the EPA limitations. We just have to hear more about weighing up the option. They never revealed much about their involvement to me, but I always had the feeling that Alfonso's crew was more linked to Gasum than they seemed. I have information that the CEO that replaced Alfonso is a loyalist. Alfonso is still the chairman of Gasum and the de facto key figure. Additionally, the NBC chairman, Mikhail Avon, and Minister Gus Manja have shares in the company and preside over the board. Power structures behind the scenes shouldn't matter much to us. The shareholder links raise questions regarding Alfonso Manja's motivations. Yeah. And this is, yeah, I was going to say, politician, businessman. Like, we were talking to him about the highway stuff before. Some of it, anyway. I suspect that the corporation isn't doing too well, and they're seeking investments. Any investment into Gasum will enrich the owners, but might also lead to more jobs and growth. Any further comments, esteemed cabinet members? Ron went silent, no one stepped forward. It was noticeable how much people respected Vichy. He carried the soul of Switzerland as a symbol of the past. I think summarizes all we know and what we stand to gain. What are your thoughts? Look favorably towards it. We will have to wait and hear more from Mr. Manager to decide. I mean, I look very favorably towards potential investment. There is a strong potential for further cooperation, and Rizio previously aided Southern when it needed foreign help the most. I will assist in analysing the political implications. Thank you, support staff, and I will be working towards the next step soon after receiving more context from Mr. Manager. Our ambassador in Port Drazon is in communication with Loreto Esquivel, the Rizian Councillor of Foreign Affairs, already. That concludes our meeting. Thank you all. Have a good day and enjoy Lochhaven. See you later, gentlemen. Let's just thank them all for coming. Or I can say good work. Meeting concluded, and the team dispersed. Our diplomatic action plan officially began. Did it? So the national map. And then there are more, there's a tourism briefing. I was just trying to see if there was going to be a decision about those things, because by the time I get to talk about, actually make a decision, I probably have forgotten things. Anyway, this has been a lot of reading, a long episode. So I'm going to put a cut in here. Look out for the next one. It will come soon. But please leave a like if you're enjoying this, and please subscribe if you want to see more. It really does help for me to decide if I continue. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.